Welcome, my African people, to the PM Hour. That's the Pan-African Millennial Hour. We talk about the diaspora. You know what it is. I'm Patrick.
I'm Tasha.
I'm Terry.
Peace and blessings. I'm Garrett, and it's all about the melanin, y'all. I got a story today coming out of Zimbabwe, and this is out there, a story that's come from President Emerson Mnangagwa. President Emerson Mnangagwa has signed an official order to give farmland back to white folks. Actually, it's going to be a payment of $3.5 billion over the course of 5 years that they're going to give back to the white farmers. Now, they're planning on giving this land back because this land was seized from President Mugabe. President Mugabe. That was he had a coup against him back in 2017, and he had a coup that ran against him and pushed him out. No, they didn't kill him, but they did oust him out of government. So, in terms of this type of, I'm going to put quotes here, in these type of relations to quell the relations between Westerners, Europeaners. So to quell the relations with Europeaners, current President Mnangagwa is going to give the farmland back to the white farmers that was seized from Mugabe. But it ain't just the fact of giving the land back. It's actually a little bit more because we're talking about money here as well. So it's like they're giving like the land, but there's like some economy that's also being
Getting compensation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they say that they don't even have enough money to pay this off. So the thing is that there's going to be some sort of debt there.
Wow, so putting in debt just to do this bullshit.
And they really don't say what European countries exactly are the ones that's supposed to get this type of compensation back. But, again, now this just kind of want to just bring this up to like a broader point. We talked about this, last week in the sense of like how the black people in England currently to these days still have to pay corporations. They have to pay corporations, not just like mom and pop stores. They got to pay corporations in England back for the slaves that they freed during slavery. So it's basically you're like paying a corporation back for freeing the slaves, so freeing your ancestors. Basically, the people that are in England have to pay.
Because what they figured they operate at a loss after losing their slaves. They got a loss, so they're compensated for the loss they had as a company.
Right. Well, in sense of, I mean, the regard. It's kind of what I kind of want to bring out to everyone. How to look at the sense of what do we view and how do we see that even in today's times, even with how we can sit here and think that we get this type of what do you call it, diversity, peace, and these policies, civil rights, and all this type of we abandoned slavery, we're not racist or whatever, but yet you might not have us in the physical sense of slavery, but there's definitely an economic slavery going on. There's definitely a huge sense of economic slavery going on.
Global.
And listen, but this is what I'm speaking of. It's Pan-African, baby.
It's Pan-African. It's
Pan-African. That, baby. It's all about the melanin,
Yeah.
I don't separate that, baby. Oh,
I
yeah.
just want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
Where is I do understand what you're saying, right? But one thing I will say is it comes back to the leadership, right? Because it seems like there was great leadership in Mugabe, right? Mm-hmm. He was very favored by the people, the citizens of Zimbabwe, and a lot of other African countries too, looked to him. And what he did was kind of revolutionary, but it was also the right thing to do. He went against colonialism, right? And because of that, which also happened in other countries too, which is just recently also happened in South America. So the thing is, when you have good leadership, that gets undermined by outside influence, and then get replaced by good leadership that's for the people, that's for the citizens, is for the people of that country. It gets undermined by, I guess, for lack of a better word, sellouts. So that's where you have that situation in Zimbabwe, where you had something good in Mugabe. Not to say that he was perfect, but he was working towards restoration, what you should be working towards, right?
Yes.
You have a coup, get rid of him, and remember what coups are. Coups are influenced by outside country. A lot of times it's by America, other countries that have a secret interest in your country.
Absolutely.
That secret interest benefit them, not you. Right? And so because of that, they will have a coup, right? And get that person out and get the person in that they want that can best fulfill their personal interest. That is opposite of what you feel in that country, the citizens in that country. So that's basically what I'm saying about Zimbabwe and all of Africa and South America and all that. It has to do with the leadership.
Yeah, it's right. It's indicative of a lot of African countries that go through the same thing. You know, that they get outside influence. It's a modern day neocolonialism, indirect, you know, they get these puppet leaders. And to touch on Mugabe, for those who don't know, part of the reason why he was ousted, and a lot of the people, they were for Mugabe, but there was a certain part that was against Mugabe. Because why? Because when Mugabe took the lands from the whites and everything, he did that. However, it takes a while to see the fruition of doing that. For some people, it was taking too long. For some people, giving the lands back to blacks, they didn't really get to see the benefit of doing that just yet. But it's right thing to do, because the adverse of that, when there were whites, yes, there were some people that had, black people that had jobs, but however, they had jobs, didn't have ownership. So there was a minimal economic benefit. But the benefit of turning it back over to blacks was that, okay, well, they didn't benefit too much yet initially, but you start to see the growth till eventually the point where economically they were way better off. But there was a time factor with it. And they used that against Mugabe to try to oust him and saying it's not working, it's not whatever, it's not benefiting people and whatever. They figure if they get foreign interest and get everything back to the way it was, they will have this money in and everything else, you know? So they used that as a factor, which was foolish, it was dumb, and it was stupid, you know? So Mugabe was doing the right thing. And my brother eloquently brought it up, you know what I'm saying? It's a good thing that he didn't die as a result, because he didn't kill him. He didn't. So
you don't
hopefully,
kill the idea, really.
You don't kill the idea. So you don't kill the idea. That's what happens when you kill off leaders. You kill Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all this other one, because you also kill the idea. Hopefully, and this is hopeful, hopefully that Africans there in Zimbabwe, they start to see that, okay, wow, what we have with Mugabe was going the right way. We was heading in the right direction. Of course, my sister also pointed out it's not perfect. It's not perfect. I'm not saying the man was perfect and everything was the right, but however, what was the benefit that was to come was the right direction, at least, you know? And that was something to work with, you know? But, you know, it's a time to eye contact. We talk about this, and you guys listening have to think about not just us here in Africa. We're talking about everybody, the diaspora that's going on in the world. We think about all of us. It's a problem that we know we have the same problems here and over there, that we can better facilitate our problems and solve it better.
I'm still stuck on this issue, though. You're giving back these billions of dollars just so the people could pay back their ancestors, just so they could get out of the debt for what?
To make white people feel better.
Exactly. But why do I have to pay back my slavery? Why am I doing that, though? What is the point of, for what? Just so they could feel comfortable? I have to pay back my slavery? My ancestors was the slaves.
Good question.
Why do I have to pay back the debt of whom? My ancestors? I don't feel comfortable for paying trillions and billions of debt. For whom? For them? I don't feel that's necessary for me, for my black ancestors.
That's a good question. That's a really good question to bring up.
That's something that I don't feel that I need to pay back debt, and I'm working hard for my children and my children's children and their children's children. I don't feel that I need to pay that debt. If anybody who needs to pay that debt, it should be the white man and their children and their children's children. And if anything, it should have remained the same and left well enough alone. It should have stayed how it was. If they're free, they're free.
Yeah. You know.
So I don't think nothing should have been paid back.
Right. I'm going to say that. I'm going to try to put this as simply as possible, because that is indicative. What you brought up is a good question. It's indicative of a lot of ways black people worldwide, here in America, everywhere else, see and how we feel about our relationship with white people. I think we are aware and we feel the scars of their brutality. As if we don't play up on their moral sensibilities, if we don't play up on them reaching out to them to treat us better, we can see how evil they can get, because they have no problem committing genocide against us massively. So what effect does that have on us psychologically? Is that we shouldn't go against their domination. We shouldn't go against something that benefit us totally that they would be upset at, because we can see the slaughter that's to come. We feel that trauma. Stockholm syndrome. You know?
Yeah, but I still do believe that's generational. I do believe that influence is generational, and I believe that influence is like we're getting. I know sometimes it's hard to see, but we're getting to like a generation where
we're less afraid. We're less afraid of that.
Less afraid, but the information is not getting across the same way as it did before, right? It has to do with social media. A lot of the information before that we had came from school, came from certain outlets, and it was very tailored, right? And so you got to learn whatever they deemed important. Now, today, kids in school can learn one thing in school, but a lot of times what you learn in school is a jumping off point, because you know what? You can go and get more information on that. So you have a lot of kids now that's like, I understand you said that about like the Vietnamese war, whatever, but then they go and they have information at their fingertips and they learn that, and now they go back to school and they're like, what this says is different from what I know to be true. You see what I'm saying? A lot of that is going on. Information is not the same.
Yeah,
so that's
so
what
true.
I'm saying. You do have a situation where it's like, okay, I get what you're saying. We have this fear of white people, blah, blah, blah. It's in the media. It's in the stuff we buy. It's everywhere, right? But also, too, we know our history now. Before, you were hiding our history from us, so we didn't know that part. We thought we were like a bunch of savages that you tamed and turned us into this thing. And now we speak English and, you know, we don't have like a savage language, whatever. You know, now we know none of that's true. Yeah. None of that's true. We even know that, like, that Jesus is not the real Jesus. We know a lot of stuff.
Good point.
But when I say us, you have no idea how information changes a generation. Yeah. The generation under us are not as timid, or they don't believe the lies like we
That's
do.
good. We're in the middle of the effects of the information. That's so true.
That's what
good
I'm
point.
saying. That's why in our generation, you could have never had anything as big as that George Floyd. You know why you had something as big as George Floyd in the younger generation, and they're actually the one that fueled it, the TikTok generation? Yeah. That's because of information that they had. Yeah. So many videos about we had Martin Luther King. The exact same thing as George Floyd.
Yeah, they went
yourself
big.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Rodney King.
Rodney King, yeah. It was the same as George Floyd, right? We saw him get beat, somehow was caught on camera, blah, blah, blah. The only thing is that George Floyd, he died, and, you know, whatever. It was a little bit more, like, whatever. But my thing is the same thing happened. We rioted, yes, but it was not worldwide. The information was spread worldwide, because you could have people in Japan and China that said, oh, the Rodney King that happened, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't have them rioting, and you didn't have all Chinese people, all Japanese people, all Korean people. You didn't have them going out and protesting.
Yeah, that's
You didn't
that's
have
true.
people in
That's
Africa
different.
protesting. Yeah. You didn't have people in Europe, non-minority, like straight up all white, protesting. You didn't have that during Rodney King. That's what I'm saying. You know what the difference was? Information. Yeah,
and the availability of it.
They were available, sure.
But
But
now
I
it's
think
more.
even if they weren't available, information, you know, is what like got you going. Okay, and all the other stuff that people eyes are open to. Yeah.
Well, you know,
so that's what I'm saying. This younger generation is something different.
Good point.
And that's the point. And I think that's where I want to come in at, because I like the idea where you're talking about information in the young generation. This is a prime time for all of us to really take advantage of this. You know, this thirst of the young minds that want to learn. You know, this is more of a reason why we need to reconnect them back to their history, reconnect them back to their culture. You got to remember, it's very systematic for them to separate us from our culture, separate us from their names. You know, it's very clueless for the kids now. If you want to sit them and tell them a black name, like kind of like you would say, like, you know, Mugabe or Enda Mugabe, and they look
Hannibal
at you
Barca,
or if you want to sit here, right, you know, and then you give them a name like, you know, Robert. You know what I'm saying?
Even today, Asher Kwesi, they don't even know.
Gary, you know, I mean, they're kind of normal. They don't normalize these names. You know what I'm saying? Even the black names that we give, the Star Keishas. You know what I'm saying? We make up these names. We make that in our own. But again, the thing is, what I'm trying to bring it in is let's just all bring it home. Remember, Black Lives Matter started in the house. That's what I'm trying to get. We would understand.
Yeah.
We have to reaffirm these ideals. Let's get them reconnected back to the culture. Reconnect them back to Africa because we're the ones that do it. They're not gonna learn it in schools. We know that. The music, the movies, they're not going to give it to these kids. They're not going to give it to them. So it is up to us to try to really keep these values still within them. Let them understand that where they come from and what it's all about, what our history is and all that. And like you just said before, because to piggyback off that, the younger generation is very, very, very thirst for it. It's the guidance. And we don't all have to be like these trailblazers. When I say guidance, we don't have to beat that line. It's little things in here. You know, letting them get, it's that little advancement information. This is why that having a habit of reading to everyone out there, is having a habit of reading is so imperative. Not so much of having it like audio or someone just reading it for you, but to actually go through a book and just read because it helps your imagination. And not just it helps your imagination, but it helps your imagination when you also want to speak and teach what you have read to other people that you talk to, whatever you are reading about.
Well said.
So we should just always, keep that going forward and spread it and spreading that out because I think right now it's a very open mindset for everyone that we have right now with the younger generation with that thirst for knowledge, and it's definitely good that we should try to get them back to where we at, back to our culture, back to what we know best.
I feel I'm getting my identity of what to do now. Zimbabwe, we're with you.
Oh yeah, Zimbabwe.
We're with you here.
Yeah.
The
Viva,
pan-Africanism
right.
struggle is with you.
Viva Zimbabwe.
And that's what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? The PM Hour. Follow us on Instagram, the PM.hour. Follow us on Twitter, the PM Hour. Follow us on Facebook, the PM Hour. Follow our anchor, the PM Hour. We here. We're available. We're there. You leave a comment, leave an email. If you want to leave an email, it's the PMHour1@gmail.com.